Before the creation of everything, there will be nothing. And before nothing, there will be darkness. When darkness overshadowing the entire everything, with nothing and everything existing at the same time, with only darkness remaining, until the first big bang that will occur in the entire multiverse will appear, giving birth to two powerful dragons, one named Valdanava and one named Drago. These two will be known as the twin brothers and one of the strongest dragons and true dragons in existence. Both of them will be born gods and dragons at the same time. Valdanava would have decided after millennia of years, we decided to create his own world, with Drago doing the same, as both of them decided to separate each other's worlds just in case if something may happen wrong. Drago decided to create his own world, naming it Vestroya, but eventually, after many years, Vestroya was split into 6 elements, due to a core of the existence splitting into 2 parts, leading to his entire world to split into 6 worlds, when the elements of darkness, light, earth, fire, air would have ruled. Of course, Drago will still look onto his world and eventually find out how many of the Bakugans that he has created throughout the years and races he has been creating for many millennia. While Velna will decide to create the world Tensura, creating a world when many powerful beings can be born, alongside the two brothers will eventually have younger siblings, with one of them named Velzard and Veldora, with, of course, eventually both Veldanava and Drago would have earned their own titles, with Veldanava gaining the title of the Star King and the creator of Tensura, while Drago would have gotten his own version of title and name, being known as the second creator of Tensura and the supreme true dragon. With this title now being formed, both Drago and Veldanava would have decided to take over the world, making sure that everything goes well. Eventually, Veldanava fell in love with one of his creations, and eventually had a daughter named Malim. Malim was a powerful hybrid dragon, and eventually Drago would have also visited his own nephew. Both Drago and Veldanava would have a pretty good relationship since they both were twin brothers. In their humanoid forms, they both almost look exactly the same, except that Drago has white hair instead of the black one his brother possesses. Eventually, many millennia would have passed, with eventually Veldanava would have disappeared. Eventually, after Drago would have heard news of his brother disappearing, Drago would have been devastated, but he would still continue on to look on his world, making sure that everything was done correctly. But eventually, after the disappearance of Veldanava, a new dragon would have occurred, naming himself Darak. Darak would have wanted to destroy the two worlds and devour them and cover them in the darkness that once began everything. Drago, knowing he must stop Darak, they both fight throughout millennia, with Drago being the only strongest being which can imagine Darak. Darak was not strong enough to handle Drago's full power, and eventually Drago was able to seal him through a powerful skill that he was able to obtain, known as the Eternal Chamber, which practically allows him to seal any being stronger than him or weaker than him for as long as he wants. But he must use almost all his magic tools to do so. Eventually, after that, Drago was exhausted and almost out of energy. Not having enough energy practically to sustain his own being, Drago decided to reincarnate himself. But knowing that he will get reincarnated, Drago decided to create his own time dimension, creating the Dark New Void, or the Limitless Void. Eventually, he'll go in there and eventually spend a couple of millennia, which inside there will be only 1 year. In there, Drago would have mastered all his powers and eventually learn of his worlds eventually occurring, with a dragon named Naga wanting to practically absorb the two cores and eventually rule the world. Drago decided to practically send one of his descendants, being a dragon named after him, being Drago. Drago would have tried to stop Naga, but Naga would be too late, as Naga would absorb in the core of silence, and eventually his sister would have absorbed the core of light. Eventually, after Drago would have seen everything and even his descendants failing that, Drago decided to send some of the Bakugans into his own world, on the own Earth. Drago would have, of course, watched over his descendant and many other humans who have Bakugans, with, of course, also hearing about the Bakugan game and learning more about the humans' lives. He knows that in his brother's world, the humans are not as evolutionary as those humans. Even though they have magic, the technology that they have here is pretty impressive itself. He also sees a young genius known as Marucho, who is an incredible genius who also created multiple things. Eventually, Drive would have looked over the world and eventually see how his descendants would have evolved, became stronger, and eventually lead to the world of Destroyer being restored to his original glory, making Drive really proud of his descendant. Eventually, Jar would have heard the news about one of his siblings being sealed, being Veldora. Of course, Jar would have sighed, knowing that Veldora, because of his gigantic cockiness, would have gotten himself into that. He knows that Veldora is incredibly prideful, but he knows that he cannot change his mind either way. Eventually, Veldora would have gone into actually picking on someone's side, known as the true hero, but little did she knew is that this hero was actually corrupted by the darkness. Drago knew that, but he didn't want to partly ruin the trust he had with his sister, so he decided to stay silent and not do anything. Eventually, both Drago would have disappeared just like Valdenaba, but he didn't die or anything like that. They both would have actually disappeared to a completely new world they have been created for themselves, with both of them watching over the worlds as they continue to grow. Eventually, Drago would have seen how his descendants would have evolved. He incredibly grew stronger and eventually created even the Mectogons he once created a long time ago, guardians of chaos and balance. Which of course his descendants were able to reach his final evolution as Spear's fusion Dragoniod. With this of course making really proud Drago, as eventually after he meets his descendants, he wishes them good luck in the future as he decides to visit his brother's world. Eventually also wishing Don Kuzo and Drago their own good luck as he goes to his brother's world. Eventually, Drago decides to partly suppress his presence, going to his human form, and eventually suppressing his presence to a point that he's like a normal Majin or a human. Which will most likely be much more beneficial, since if he really actually reveals his true power, he will also destroy the entire world of Tensura. Because Drago is actually stronger than his twin brother Veldanava. Even though Veldanava possesses the immense power and almost unlimited amount of power, his brother Drago possesses much more power and strength incomparable to his younger brother, or twin brother. Of course, Jar would have eventually heard the news about slime being in one cave where his brother is. Of course, Jar was ahead to watch over it, and eventually he found Rimuru. Rimuru, of course, would have also begun his goblin village, and eventually Jar was ahead to visit him, making difference in between the Tensura world. Of course, Rimuru practically surprised to actually see a human. Of course, the Direwolves and some of the gods would try to attack him, but Jar was easy to fend them off with ease, seemingly he was not bothered by them. Eventually, Jar would have also helped Rimuru and eventually explained to him about everything and how he knows that Veldora was absorbed by him. Of course, it will be kind of weird since he's practically the older brother of Veldora, means that he's much stronger than Veldora, which kind of worries Rimuru. But Drago explains to him that he actually understands why Rimuru did that, so he can practically break free Veldora. He understands, so he doesn't have to worry. But Drago will give him a gift. Rimuru is of course confused of what that gift would be, as Drago decides to give him his own humanoid form, a skill called transformation, allowing him to practically transform into anything he desires, but he must use all Magicuse to create the form he desires. Of course, Rimuru will still achieve his own human version form, in which he still absorbs Shizu like in the original. Of course, Drago will continue to watch over the world Tensura, making sure that everything goes well, and making sure that Rimuru stays in the right path. Of course, the Kaijins that would try to attack Rimuru would of course fail because of Rimuru actually being stronger than ever before because of Drago giving him his own skill. Drago would of course also know about how Rimuru was named because of his brother. And eventually of course, Drago wonders if his brother Veldanava is in another dimension, partly faking his death so he can make sure that maybe he will find a powerful successor. So of course Drago decides to stay silent about this information. He is all-knowing and much more experienced. He knows that his brother would have made the right choice, letting his world will grow on its own, not only controlling it. That's why he also learned. Drago, of course, would sometimes decide to leave Rimuru to his own business, and eventually search through his own world of Bakugan, and eventually see many different worlds, and eventually splitting the timelines to different variations, where Bakugans were lived peaceful, and then some bad things didn't never happen, which practically Drago became even stronger than that. With his true form still being suppressed, he was able to practically grow stronger. The more worlds he created, the stronger he became, by infinite amount of time. Eventually, of course, he would also get a bond with the humans and some goblins. So yeah, because of this, of course, Drago would have also visited Rimuru and helped him from time to time to build his own town. knowing that very well that a dark future will occur to Rimuru and Rimuru will be forced to make his own decisions. But Drago knows very well that Rimuru will make the right decision even in the end. He knows that. But he ponders if that dark future will result into Rimuru facing someone stronger than him. He just hopes, Drago hopes that this may not be the truth. But this is the end for this chapter. I'll see you guys in the next one.